We're blessed today. We're blessed. First of all, we're blessed with your wonderful presence. You look so wonderful today. Amen. You look so wonderful today. But we're blessed to have a very, very special guest with us, the author of this book, The Power to Persist. It's a book that we have been sharing with our congregation over the course of the last number of weeks. We've encouraged our members to pick them up as stocking stuffers, so you can share with someone to encourage them, to push them, to give them some insights, some very practical, pragmatic insights of how to push through difficult times, both externally and internally, the mental blocks and the emotional blocks sometimes that can prevent us from moving forward. And many of you have already purchased a copy of the book, and we said that we would be having a very special guest on this Sunday, the author of The Power to Persist. Lamell J. McMorris is with us. I'm going to ask if he would stand today. Brother McMorris is with us. He is a gentleman who has impacted so many lives in so many different spaces and ways. He is a Renaissance man, amen? Serving in corporate America, a very successful entrepreneur, an activist, a civil rights activist. He serves or has served on the board of Morehouse College Board of Trustees. Also has served as a special advisor to the National Action Network and serving on their board. As a matter of fact, the Reverend Al Sharpton, who's preached here on a number of occasions, is wrote the foreword for this book. And you would imagine with a person like Mr. McMorris, who is so Reverend McMorris, somebody say Reverend McMorris. With Reverend McMorris, who is so successful, who has reached so many heights, who has been a leader in so many industries, in the sports industry, in the business industry, in so many ways, that surely he does not have challenges when it comes to persisting. But we get to hear from one of those ambitious, one of those very successful leaders in various spaces and places. And so after service in the O.M. Hoover Center, not only will he be signing books, but before he'll be signing books, he'll be sharing a little bit about his story and the themes of this book, and encouraging you not just to buy the book, more so than that, it's an act of ministry for him, but also encouraging you to persist in whatever challenges that you have. Amen? Amen. So I want to encourage you to do that. I want to encourage you to pick up the book. I want to encourage as many of you who can stay to come over for the book talk, be very brief, and the book signing. Amen?
Thank you, Olivet, for having me here this morning. I can't thank you enough. I was welcomed so warmly by this wonderful sister Vivian, who has, with her team, made our journey here very pleasant. Will you give her and the ministry, the book ministry, a big round of applause? I had to pause for a second to spend a moment with Dr. Moss. As you can imagine, as a Morehouse man, Dr. Otis Moss is, when you're in his presence, that's like being around holy ground. So I had to share with him that I was in the hospital room with Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson Sr. when he and Otis Moss III were on the phone giving prayer to the family. He didn't know that I was in the room. So give a big round of applause to our pastor emeritus, Dr. Otis Moss. And lastly, to your dynamic preaching young pastor, Dr. Jawanza Karriem Colvin. Let me say this. When I met, so Jawanza is 2 years, I'm sorry, Dr. Colvin, I've known him since Morehouse, since your pastor, Dr. Colvin, was 2 years behind me at Morehouse. But I want to tell you something. You can tell a gem and a superstar and a rare jewel as soon as you meet them. Who he is, and the young man that you see today, who you call your pastor, has been that since he was a student at Morehouse College. He has grown, he has evolved for sure, but I want you to know people like your pastor don't grow in bunches like grapes. They're rare like jewels. Give your pastor a big round of applause. How do I know that faith is alive in you and alive in us? Because we're still here. We're still here, as your pastor talked about. If there's one thing that I've learned about my journey and that it has taught me from the south side of Chicago, I'm from the south side of Chicago, Woodlawn, for those of you who are familiar, 66 at Cottage Grove, for those of you who are really familiar. From one thing from the south side of Chicago to Morehouse College to rooms that I never thought or imagined I would be in, I've learned is that resilience is not what we talk about. Resilience is who we are. None of us, as our pastor talked about this morning, are strangers to the dark night of our soul. None of us are strangers to the tears that fall in the midnight hour. None of us are strangers to the burdens of heavy thought that might come before us, but we're still standing. We're still walking. We're still talking. We're still worshiping. And why? Because our God, as our pastor told us this morning, will never leave us nor forsake us. That's resilience. Resilience is not a buzzword. It's not a slogan. It is lived faith, a holy strength, a power to persist that lifts us up again and again. The last habit that I talk about in the book, and I hope those of you will read it, I talk about 8 habits in the book. The last habit that I talk about is faith. These habits that allow us to persist and go forward. Faith as the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. And Sister Vivian, what I've tried to share with people is that sometimes that concept of faith that we talked about in religious context can seem like this outwardly, Sister Tabby, this outwardly thing that all of us can't grasp. But what I've tried to help people understand is that when we come to understand that we are the substance of things hoped for, and we are the evidence of things not seen, and we are walking and living faith, that mindset and that concept is what will help us on the road of being more resilient. Listen, I did not set out to write a book. I set out to answer a question that people have asked me throughout my life, and that is, how is it and why is it that you continue to propel and go forward and to continue to go on? As a matter of fact, my friends, I'm a new author. And when you're a new author, your publisher gives you certain benchmarks and timelines when the book is due. And I was very proud as a new author when I had to turn in half of my book to the publisher. And I was so excited that I got my book in, and I thought that I could just write this book for you. And my publisher, she pushed the book back to me. And she said, no. She said, no, this is not it. I said, what do you mean this is not it? I met the deadline. I have this book and I'm giving it to you. She said, unless people see, hear, read, and feel your authentic resilience. I thought I could just write a book for you. I thought this book about these 8 habits of resilience was just for you. She said, unless people can see, feel, and touch your authentic. She said, not Lamell in chapter 10. She said, from the beginning. So one of the habits I talk about in the book is vulnerability. What you will read and what you will see is a bit, not just of a habit that I talk about, but a habit that I live and share in the book. I had to share more about my journey and my story of what it means to be resilient and the things that I've gone through than I had planned. And so I hope that you will be blessed by what I share. I believe that we have an opportunity to create what I'm calling a resilient movement. What I am the most moved by is this opportunity to be with you today and the potential of the impact that this book and this message about resilience has to make on the lives of our people. I was in Los Angeles doing a book event a week and a half ago, and I have a very dynamic young goddaughter. She's 22 years old. I'm very proud of her. I've got several godchildren. She is doing something in Los Angeles around fashion, but she's like a big person in fashion. And, you know, when I get a chance to spend time, not that I think that I'm super old, but I'm surely older, way older than my 22-year-old goddaughter. When I'm with young people, I try to pepper them with questions and ask them. So I asked her, I said, Rainey, we were at dinner. I said, Rainey, how does this notion of resilience resonate with you and your peers, 22-year-olds? You know what she said to me? She said, Uncle Lamell, she said, you and folks a little older than you all have this notion that we need to be pulling ourselves up by our bootstraps. You all think that we're weak because we take time off and we have meditative moments and we have wellness days. But that's not it. She said, you have an opportunity with this book to close a gap between my generation, who we are resilient, but we're resilient in our own ways, and your generation and older who look at us and think that we're weak because we haven't necessarily been through the things that you've been through, but we're being resilient in our own way. I was very struck when I walked in service this morning. And one of the ways you at Olivet exemplify and put yourselves on the path to resilience is before you even start service, you start with meditation. That's a habit of becoming more resilient, right? So we're doing, lastly, I talk about the first habit. The last habit is faith. The first habit that I talk about in the book is attitude. It's hard to get to habits 2 through 8 if you can't start with the first habit about attitude. And Dr. Moss, the point I lift up about attitude and I share with people is that gratitude, a spirit of gratitude, an attitude of gratitude, which we talked about today in service, a spirit and an attitude of gratitude is the first step. I give very practical advice around the habits. And one thing I ask people to do in the book is to just establish and start, like this brother has a pen and paper right there, every morning, just start a gratitude journal. If we just started a habit around the things that we are grateful for. So before the headwinds come, before the problems come, before everything hits you in your day, just write a couple of notes about the things that you're grateful for. And I submit to you, Sister Vivian, that when you start out your day giving thanks and writing down, and you can see out of your own lips and out of your own mind, right there, the things that you're grateful for, I submit that helps put us on the path to being resilient. I'm going to stop because I'm much more interested in our fellowship, in questions if you have them, but getting to meet you and hopefully signing the book and taking some photos. God bless you, and thank you for having me, Olivet. I know how historic this pulpit and this church is. I have a tremendous amount of respect for your ministry. When your pastor invited me to come here on Sunday. He said, no. He said, this is what we do. I said, what do you mean? He said, no, we have a book ministry. I said, you have a book ministry? He said, yes, we have a book ministry, and you need to contact Sister Vivian. She's going to work. I said, well, are you sure? He said, absolutely. And so I am so grateful, so humbled to be with you.